Good afternoon. Welcome to Learn at Home with VIA. My name is Jennifer McKee. I'm a learning support teacher in the Jersey Shore Area School District. Today, we're going to listen to Planting the Trees of Kenya, the story of Wangari Maathai. We're going to play a Kahoot to review the story. Then we're going to focus on one of the main parts of her story. We're going to discuss deforestation. This is going to talk just a little bit about climate changes. We're going to compare the United States and other places around the world to what happened in Kenya. We're going to dig a little deeper into Kenya's forests today and look at seed balls. We're going to look at seed bombing with slingshots. Then we're going to brainstorm other ways that we could help. We're going to start with planting the trees of Kenya. We're going to listen to the story. You can follow along on the screen. We're going to look at why are they planting trees in Kenya? Are there similarities in the story to other places?
Planting the Trees of Kenya, the story of Wangari Maathai, written by Claire Niavola. As Wangari Maathai tells it, when she was growing up on a farm in the hills of central Kenya, the earth was clothed in its dress of green. Fig trees, olive trees, croutons, and flame trees covered the land, and fish filled the pure waters of the streams. The fig tree was sacred then, and Wangari knew not to disturb it, not even to carry its fallen branches home for firewood. In the stream near her homestead, where she went to collect water for her mother, she played with glistening frogs' eggs, trying to gather them like beads into necklaces, though they slipped through her fingers back into the clear water. Her heart was filled with the beauty of her native Kenya when she left to attend a college run by Benedictine nuns in America, far, far from her home. There she studied biology, the science of living things. It was an inspiring time for Wangari. The students in America in those years dreamed of making the world better. The nuns, too, taught Wangari to think not just of herself, but of the world beyond herself. How eagerly she returned to Kenya, how full of hope and of all that she had learned. She had been away for 5 years, only 5 years, but they might have been 20. So changed was the landscape of Kenya. Wangari found the fig tree cut down, the little stream dried up, and no trace of frogs, tadpoles, or silvery beads of eggs. Where once there had been little farms growing what each family needed to live on, and large plantations growing tea for exports, now almost all farms were growing crops to sell. Wangari noticed that the people no longer grew what they ate, but bought food from stores. The store food was expensive, and the little they could afford was not as good for them as what they had grown themselves, so that children, even grown-ups, were weaker and often sickly. She saw that where once there had been richly wooded hills with grazing cows and goats, now the land was almost treeless, the woods gone. So many trees had been cut down to clear the way for more farms that women and children had to walk farther and farther in search of firewood to heat a pot or warm the house. Sometimes they walked for hours before they found a tree or bush to cut down. There were fewer and fewer trees with each one they cut, and much of the land was as bare as a desert. Without trees, there were no roots to hold the soil in place. Without trees, there was no shade. The rich topsoil dried to dust, and the devil wind blew it away. Rain washed the loose earth into the once clear streams and rivers, dirtying them with silt. "We have no clean drinking water," the woman of the countryside complained. "No firewood to cook with. Our goats and cows have nothing to graze on, so they make little milk. Our children are hungry, and we are poorer than before." Wangari saw that the people, who had once honored fig trees and now cut them down, had forgotten to care for the land that fed them. Now the land, weak and suffering, could no longer take care of the people, and their lives became harder than ever. The women blamed others. They blamed the government, but Wangari was not one to complain. She wanted to do something. Think of what we ourselves are doing, she urged the women. We are cutting down the trees of Kenya. When we see that we are part of the problem, she said, we can become part of the solution. She had a simple and big idea. Why not plant trees? She asked the women. She showed them how to collect tree seeds from the trees that remained. She taught them to prepare the soil, mixing it with manure. She showed them how to wet that soil, press a hole in it with a stick, and carefully insert a seed. Most of all, she taught them to tend the growing seedlings as if they were babies, watering them twice a day to make sure they grew strong. It wasn't easy. Water was always hard to come by. Often the women had to dig a deep hole by hand and climb into it to haul heavy bucketfuls of water up over their heads and back out of the hole. An early nursery in Wangari's backyard failed. Almost all the seedlings died, but Wangari was not one to give up, and she showed others how to not give up. Many of the women could not read or write. They were mothers and farmers, and no one took them seriously. But they did not need schooling to plant trees. They did not have to wait for the government to help them. They could begin to change their own lives. All this was heavy work, but the women felt proud. Slowly, all around them, they could begin to see the fruit of their work and of their hands. The woods were growing up again. Now, when they cut down a tree, they planted two in its place. Their families were healthier, eating from the fruit trees they had planted and from the vegetable plots filled again with the yams, cassava, pigeon peas, and sorghum that grew so well. They had work to do, and the work brought them together as one, like the trees growing together on the newly wooded hills. The men saw what their wives, mothers, and daughters were doing and admired them and even joined in. Wangari gave seedlings to the schools and taught the children how to make their own nurseries. She gave seedlings to inmates of prisons and even to soldiers. You hold your gun, she told the soldiers, but what are you protecting? The whole country is disappearing with the wind and water. You should hold the gun in your right hand and a tree seedling in your left. That's when you become a good soldier. And so, in the 30 years since Wangari began her movement, tree by tree, person by person, 30 million trees have been planted in Kenya, and the planting has not stopped. When the soil is exposed, Wangari tells us, it is crying out for help. It is naked and needs to be clothed in its dress. That is the nature of the land. It needs color. It needs its cloth of green.
That last little bit gave you a little more history of Wangari Maathai. If you want, you could go back and look at the video later to see that. Right now, if you have a phone or iPad or other device, you can go to Kahoot, and here's our game code. While you do that, we're going to discuss the story a little bit. What happened to the fig trees in the beginning? How were they treated? The fig trees were honored. No one cut them down. No one took their branches even when they fell down. Over the years, when Wangari went away to school, what happened to those trees? They were cutting them down. They were planting fields to do other things. Was life harder or easier because of this? In the end, it made life much harder. Over the years, what happened to the trees and the land? The women kept cutting the trees down for firewood. The land was more barren. It was mainly dirt, and then that led to a lot of erosion. So things had trouble growing, and there was less food and water for the people and the animals. And how did Wangari solve this problem? She started the movement to plant the trees. She had the women helping her to plant the trees. My name, Dr. McKee. You may play along.
The land in Kenya was beautiful.
Otherwise, we'll just show the screen what I have.
The landscape was beautiful.
Get ready for the first question. Which word means belonging to a place by birth? Hope I get these right. So a native. Which word means almost the same as urged? You're urging someone, you are asking them. Where would you most likely find plantations? Well, plantations are where you grow things. You need a lot of space. The word export means the process of which of the following means a region's landforms? Landscapes. Which word is the antonym for glistening? Now, if you play this later, hopefully we'll see the scoreboard change. What is a synonym for influence? Which word is a synonym for restore? I thought renew might be it, but I wasn't sure. Hope you did better on that question than I did. What problem did Wangari see when she returned to Kenya? Trees were being cut down. How did the change affect the people? In the end, it hurt them. They were poorer than before. What was Wangari's solution? To plant the trees. What is the most important idea of the selection? This one's a little bit harder. Two questions left. Which word best describes Wangari? Which tree did the Kenyans most honor at the beginning of the story? All right, let's see if you can beat my score when you play this on your own. So, what is deforestation? So deforestation is when you cut down the trees and the vegetation around it. So what did Wangari Maathai do to help prevent deforestation, or to help restore the deforestation in Kenya? She started planting trees. She was growing them, and then she was planting them. And she had other people helping her. Who were some of the people helping her plant the trees? Your said school students or the soldiers, you're right. Where else in the world, oh, there's a typo, is deforestation happening? You hear a lot about deforestation happening in the Amazon rainforest in Brazil and South America. What can we do about deforestation? We could do what Magari did and plant trees again. What holiday in the United States do we traditionally see a lot of talk about trees and planting trees? Arbor Day is a time where a lot of people talk about trees and planting trees, or Earth Day would be another example of when we talk about some of these ideas. What are seed balls? Have you ever heard the term before? Let's see.
Teddy Kinyanjui is the co-founder of Seedballs Kenya, a reforestation initiative that uses seedball technology. So how does it work? We join Teddy to find out.
Mike is the manager. This is who I usually deal with when we come. We source all of the seeds directly from Kenya Forest Research Institute. They're the only body that's actually mandated by government to do tree seed science. So we get very good quality assurance from them and viability testing and so on. So I'm going to be getting a kilo of this particular one. This is the yellow fever tree, Naivasha thorn. This is one that grows very well in Athi River. And again, our species choice is always, what are people cutting down for charcoal? Yeah. Sure. My seeds, excellent. So many years ago, yeah. Bring all of the seeds to Chardust, where they get made with our proprietary technology that we've invented into seed balls. So I approached Elson from Chardust Limited because I knew they deal with recycled charcoal dust. Charcoal dust, I know, is a very good amendment for the soil. High porosity, holds nutrients, holds water, microbes and bacteria. You air dry them in the sun. And that takes about another day if the weather is good. We have a specially formulated mix of different types of nutritious binders that holds all of the charcoal dust together around the seed. It's a very, very small seed.
The team distributes a single indigenous species of trees across arid and semi-arid areas.
What we immediately decided to do was just find out what trees are they cutting down in any given part of Kenya for charcoal. We should be planting more of those ones because no one really is. And so we looked at, most of the acacia species. We've selected about 10 to 15 different types that are used for unsustainable charcoal making in different parts of the country.
Once the seed balls have been dried, they're taken for various throwing expeditions.
My name is Gay Cullen, and I live here in the savannah. Whistling thorn acacia is what we've been spreading today, and the yellow fever tree, acacia, we've been spreading those, and the other tree that you see around here is the desert date, the Balanites. There's quite a few of those in the area. So that's the seeds that we've been using today. Having been a pilot for over 43 years and flown all over Africa, you see that this area, the trees are just being denuded everywhere. I think seed boiling is definitely the way to go. And the more we can do it from the air and learn how to do it from the air, we can spread it wider.
And to engage the young generation, Teddy devised interesting ways to involve them in seed balling.
as a kid growing up myself, I always had slingshots and loved playing with them. And so given the shape and size of a seed ball, it became, immediately obvious this is perfect ammunition to replace stones. So rather than kids shooting stones, they should be shooting seeds and stuff.
Since 2016, over 6 million seed balls have been thrown into the ground. At the 2019 One Planet Summit in Nairobi, Kenyan President Uhuru Kenyatta pledged to raise the country's forest cover over the next 3 years.
I am pledging that by 2022, we want to reach a minimum of 10% forest cover in our country.
Presently, the country's forest cover stands at 7.5%. But with methods such as seed ball technology, able to cover vast tracts of land in a short time, Kenya's goal may be achieved sooner rather than later.
Now, they briefly mentioned in this video the seed bombing with the slingshots. I'm going to show you another little clip about the seed bombing. The schoolboys are leading the fight against deforestation with slingshots. For the guerrilla gardening, they are firing charcoal-covered seeds instead of stones. About 2 million seed balls have been planted in Kenya in the past year and a half. Is that something you might enjoy doing? They look like they were having fun. Now, we have a short video of how to make seed bombs from Ace Hardware.
Hi everyone, it's Lou Manfredini, Ace's home expert, and I got a great project you could do with your kids. It's called a seed bomb, and the whole idea behind this is you're going to use some clay, some potting soil, or black dirt, whatever it might be, and some seeds, and create these little clay balls that you can use to place anywhere you want to grow flowers and kind of throw them into place. So it's simple as this. Using some model clay, this is the Crayola brand of Model Magic. You can use any kind of clay you want, but this works out pretty well. You're going to go ahead and take it out of the package, which I have right here, and I'm going to flatten this out a little bit and widen it up a little bit, so I'm almost making like a little pancake. Then you're going to take a little topsoil. I've got a little potting soil here in this pot, and you're going to put a little of that dirt inside there. It's all right, you're going to make a little bit of a mess, but that's okay. And you're going to start to knead this. The whole idea is I'm trying to get the clay and the dirt to kind of mix together, okay? And you're going to back and forth, and move it around. Then, once you kind of do that, you see how it kind of blends in and it's almost changing the color because of the dirt in there? Go ahead and get as much dirt as you can and really kind of work it in, because that dirt is going to help you with the seeds that you're going to place on this. So once you've kneaded it out pretty well, I'm going to go ahead and flatten it again. Then I have wildflowers, any kind of flower seeds you want. These are inexpensive. You can find them at your local Ace, and put a few seeds in there, and then knead that together. So now we're working those seeds in the clay with the soil, right? We're going to get all that dirt in there, and the seeds are going to mix up. And if you want to make shapes, you can make shapes. It doesn't really matter. You want to make it like a little heart, whatever it may be, to kind of make it look really nice. Let's see if we can make a little heart. You shape it back and forth, and now what you want to do is make that, just let it sit out there and dry. If you leave this out, the clay is going to dry and it's going to become hardened. Now you've created essentially a little seed ball. Seed bombs, they call them, and you can take this in those hard to reach areas and just give them a toss. Once they land in the dirt, because the clay is dry, when the first rainfall comes, the clay is going to dissolve. The seeds have been protected by the clay and the dirt. They're going to go into the soil, and before you know it, you have beautiful flowers sprouting up where you toss these things outside. If you've got a project or something you'd like to see us do, just leave a comment at the bottom of this video. And remember,
I want to thank our friends at Ace for demonstrating how to make a seed bomb. You could use their products or somewhere else that's convenient for you. Unfortunately, we're running out of time, so if you have a chance, you could click on this link or copy this link and see what a seed bomb looks like once it starts to grow. Thank you for joining me on Learn at Home with VIA.